Welcome, travelers, to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable. For when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
Hello, travelers. PA Nightmares here. I've noticed that over 30% of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So, if you're a new or a returning viewer and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you like what I do, liking the video and commenting as well, as it really helps push this video into the algorithm and it really does help the channel grow. Well, I've taken enough of your time. On to the main event. Carl decided to switch things up. Nick and I have been doing some combat training with him. If anyone is wondering how that's going, Nick got his shoulder dislocated, and I now have a black eye. How fast Carl moves is insane. Then again, he has a lot of combat experience, so I shouldn't be surprised. Enough of that though, I'll pick up where I left off. The face in the sky, along with the words, was only there for a moment or two. The stars reshaped themselves again, returning to normal. None of us said anything. As we were going along, with Carl back at the wheel, eventually, the silence became too much for me. I broke it with a pretty straightforward question. Does anybody know what the fuck that was? No clue, Nick replied. Yeah, I figured. I'm not sure I even want to know what we saw. Anyway, what did you guys see in the diner? Well, the first thing that tipped us off that something was wrong was the conversation we overheard two truckers having. Carl said, we overheard them talking about how President Reagan was doing. Reagan? Wasn't he president in the 80s? Yep, for almost all of it. He died in 2004, so as you can imagine, we found it odd that they were discussing him as though he was not only still alive, but president as well. We just thought maybe they were crazy. What was the second thing? I can answer that, Nick said. He told me the waitress brought out the food. According to him and Carl, it looked as good as it smelled. He was getting up to get me when he accidentally knocked his coffee mug off the table. It went straight through the waitress, he continued. So, she was like the trucker? Yeah, that cup shattered on the floor, and she just stood there smiling at us. Shit hit the fan after that, Carl said. That woman went from zero to psycho in the blink of an eye. They tried to leave right away, and she began shrieking. She told them they couldn't leave now that they knew their secret. Everyone's face started melting off of there. Then they tried hitting us by making shit float around, Nick said. It was fucked up. Holy shit, I said. How did you guys escape without getting hit by all that? It was actually really easy, Carl said. A pitcher ended up breaking the window by our booth, and we jumped out of it. Huh. They didn't go after you guys? They did, but something scared them into going back inside. The arm? Probably. They looked terrified. They must have sensed it because they said it was hungry. So it keeps them there until it needs fed? Apparently. And maybe the food is their way to trap people. Now that you mention it, the scent did seem weirdly strong, almost like something was trying to bait us. If that was the case, I'm glad none of us ate there. I wonder where the truckers I saw getting pulled into the trailer ended up. Nowhere we'd want to be. I think that's a safe bet. Agreed. Do you mind if I get a little shut-eye? They told me that'd be fine if I did, so I closed my eyes. Other than a vivid dream of that hand dragging me screaming into the trailer, I slept pretty well. It was good not having to deal with any agents chasing us or paranormal dangers, at least over the next week. When something did happen again, it was at a place that specialized in mental torture, brought on by pure boredom. I am, of course, talking about a high school. I think we're about to get some rain, Nick said, noticing the dark clouds that had accumulated in the sky. I prefer to think of it as a free car wash, Carl said. Did anyone else notice the flash of lightning? I asked. Another flash appeared in the sky. Then we heard the boom of thunder and the cracking noise of wood splintering. A tree, having been hit by lightning, fell to the road, flaming. "Oh shit," Nick said, slamming on the brakes. The car stopped only an inch from the tree's base. He backed up so the fire wouldn't be a problem. "What now?" he asked once the car was a safe distance away. "We'll have to take another route," Carl replied. "Huh, guys?" I said, feeling my eyes widen. I pointed out my window. Approaching us from far off in the distance and uprooting trees as it did was a large tornado. "Jesus Christ," Nick said. "Look at the size of that thing." "Drive! Fucking drive!" Carl yelled. Nick turned the car around, attempting to speed away from the area. "It's no good," I said, seeing it was quickly catching up to us. "We gotta find shelter." "But where?" Nick asked. "I don't see any buildings." For a moment, it appeared as if we were unable to escape the tornado. Then I spotted it. Poking over the trees was the school's flagpole. I pointed it out, and Nick drove in that direction. He parked by the sidewalk. Then we got out and went to the doors. "They're locked," Nick said, tugging on the double doors. "Stand back," Carl told him, drawing his pistol and shooting one of the windows out. He reached in to open the door from the inside. While he was doing this, I leaned against the other set of doors and ended up losing my balance. I managed to keep from falling by grabbing one of the handles, which then pulled the door open. Nick and Carl noticed this. The latter of the two seemed to be mentally cursing himself. "Do you think we should see if the school has a basement?" I asked. "That might take too long," Carl replied. "We should take cover in one of the classrooms." "This is reminding me of the tornado drills we did in school," Nick said. "Maybe we should try ducking and covering." "Oh, sure. That'll keep us from getting crushed by debris," I responded. "Wait, guys. I think I see the door going to the stairs." Carl pointed to the end of the hall. Even though it was hard to see, we could make out the stairs through the windows of the double doors. Although we weren't sure if they led downstairs, we knew that it wouldn't take long for the tornado to reach the school. My arms and good leg burned by the time we reached the door. Thankfully, the school did turn out to have a basement. "The tornado's getting close," I said, hearing its rumble. "Good thing you spotted this, Carl, or else we'd be..." My crutches slipped on the first step, causing me to fall sliding down the stairs. I stopped when my feet hit the door at the bottom, and I lay there groaning in pain. "Pete, I know this is a dumb question, but are you okay?" Nick asked. I've been better. Can you guys get my crutches for me?" I used a railing to pull myself back up. If I had to come up with one good thing about having to use crutches, it's that they've made my arms stronger. I thanked Carl and Nick when they handed me my crutches. Then we went through the doors. "There's another whole wing down here," Nick commented. Classroom entrances covered the walls. "Huh. I wonder why nobody else thought to take shelter here," I said. "Maybe it's just too far," Carl shrugged. "Whatever the reason, we can stay here until this blows over. Hopefully the car is still in one piece when we leave." I smirked at Carl's unintentional pun and leaned back against the wall. Aside from the howling wind outside, the next few minutes were filled with silence. I said, prompting them to look at me, "Does the hall seem different to you somehow?" I couldn't put my finger on it. Something definitely felt changed throughout the area, though Nick was the only one who realized what it was. "I think there's an extra door," he told us. We stared at them and came to the realization that an extra door had appeared. It was on the left side at the end of the hall. "Maybe we just missed it somehow?" I said, glancing around the room, then feeling my chest tighten. "Guys?" Carl and Nick looked where I had been. The door we came through was missing. Nick ran to where it was. "What the fuck happened?" he asked, feeling the now smooth wall. "I know for sure we didn't hear anything shifting around." At that moment, we had a collective realization, and it didn't give us good vibes. If the door missing wasn't enough of a bad omen, the noise of the tornado had stopped, as though it were never there. "Okay, if this is being caused by what we think it is, where do we go from here?" Nick continued. I mean, we don't seem to be in danger, but that could change real quick. Well, I think the only thing we can do is try to find no way out of this place, Carl said. Make sure to stay close. I was the one who looked into the first room by peeking through the window. Did you see anything? Nick asked me. It's too dark to make anything out, I replied, pressing my right eye against the glass. Wait, I think I can see something moving. When I realized what I was looking at, I immediately pulled away from the door. Carl and Nick took notice of my wide eye and heavy breathing. Bait, what did you see in there? Carl asked. Oh, nothing much. Desks, some scissors, a ruler, the ghost of a girl with her eyes gouged out. Wait, what was that last one? Nick inquired. I repeated the last thing I said to him, then he and Carl glanced over at the window. The girl I had seen was now shuffling towards the door. Low moans escaped her, and she reached for the knob, turning it. No, you don't, Carl said, taking out a large pack of salt and spreading a line in front of the door. When the girl opened the door, she was unable to pass it. She hissed at the salt line, slowly backing away from it. I was relieved that it actually worked. Carl, why do you carry that? I asked. Too many unsalted pretzels. Now come on. What we saw in the other rooms wasn't any better. They contained classrooms full of students who had their eyes gouged out like the girl, their jaws ripped off, or both. Some seemed to have been burned alive, as indicated by how charred their bodies looked. It was truly one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen. I try not to think about what they would have done if they had gotten a hold of us. The second to last door contained a man. Based on his uniform, we figured he was once the school janitor. His mouth hung open, unnaturally wide. In the back of it, a small hole was visible. Behind him were more people. Some were teachers, others were most likely parents. We even saw a cop among them. What they all shared in common was having a bullet wound through part of their head. When the janitor noticed us, his mouth curved into an unsettling smile. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that this creepy bastard was responsible for the deaths here, I said. All of them? Nick asked. How? As he did, I kept staring at him and his victims. A horrifying realization came over me. Guys, do you notice anything else off about their bodies? They peeked back through the window. Oh my God, Nick said. Were parts of them eaten by him? It would seem that way, Carl replied with a grim expression. The sooner we get out of here, the better. The last door, which happened to be unusually far away from the others, differed from the rest. For one, it didn't have a window. For another, it seemed really out of place. It was the kind that would normally be found in a home, not a school, unless someone's home was their school. Aside from that exception, though, it stuck out like a sore thumb. We knew if the other doors were any indicator, what was behind that one wouldn't be good. So, which one of you is going to check it? I asked. I would if it weren't for my bad leg. The only way to see into the room was to try and peek through the gap that separated the door from the floor. Nick peeked under it after Carl put a line of salt in front of the door. It's too dark to see anything, he informed us. Carl, you wouldn't happen to have a flashlight, would you? Of course. Carl handed it to him, and he shone it underneath the door gap. I still can't see anything. What gives? Wait. Nick's eyes grew wide, and he backed away from the door. Something dark and scaly. It was like it was absorbing the light. Based on his expression and what he was saying, we knew that whatever was behind that door was far more dangerous than what we'd seen in the other rooms. What shall we do? Nick asked. Truth be told, we didn't have the faintest idea of how to get out of there. Our next course of action was decided for us. Suddenly, the door swung open. On the other side of it was a mouth too big to fit through it. What the fuck? I said, backing away from the door. The only thing as horrifying as its appearance was how foul its breath smelled, which it let out with a deafening roar, causing us to cover our ears. It smelled like someone had sealed away a skunk that died shitting itself. Then, someone else uncovered it thousands or maybe even millions of years later, After roaring, it just smiled. Then the door closed and vanished. "Are you guys alright?" Carl asked. "Yeah," I said, "but I hope this ringing in my ear goes away soon." Nick was about to say something as well when he looked behind us. Upon doing so, his words caught in his throat. "Nick, what's wrong?" Carl asked. Behind you," Nick managed to choke out, pointing, following his gaze, showed us the reason for his panic, and made us feel it as well. That creature's breath had blown away the salt lines in front of the doors, allowing the ghosts to come out of the classrooms and into the hall. "Quick, Carl," I said, "put a salt line in front of us." "Already on it," he replied, rummaging through a salt pack, only for his eyes to grow wide as he faced me. "Pete, I'm out of salt. I'll have to leave things off here. With these training drills, I need all the rest I can get. Anyway, I should be back next week to pick up where I left off. Later." Everything fucking hurts. Carl's been having us do weight exercises now. We've been doing this with large rocks and logs. Words can't describe how sore my arms and legs felt afterwards. Even after 8 hours of sleep, moving is painful. Enough of my whining, though. I'll pick up where I left off my last post. I thought we were shit out of luck. There were dozens of ghosts shambling towards us. We didn't have any means of defending ourselves against or escaping them. "What do you mean you're out of salt?" I asked Carl, my tone sounding more shrill than I intended. "I mean, I'm out," he replied, turning the pack upside down over his palm to confirm this. "Then what the hell do we do?" "They're getting closer," Nick informed us. "We need to come up with something fast." "I'm trying," Carl told him. "Both of you shut up so I can think." Carl tapped his head, trying to concentrate. "Pete, hand us your crutches. Maybe we can use them to shove them back." I did as told, handing them over. Truth be told, I felt like dead weight. Carl and Nick were going to do most of the work, while all I could do was stand back. "Hang on," Nick said. "Do you guys see that?" He pointed towards the right side of the hall. From our point of view, there we saw a lever to activate the fire alarm. "Good eye, Nick. Let's just hope it works." The school janitor was at the front of the horde. His smile was that of a person who was about to indulge in a favorite food they hadn't eaten in years. "I'd hate to meet this guy when he's alive," Nick said, as he and Carl were trying to shove him back along with the other spirits. "Damn it, this isn't working," Carl said. "Sorry about this, Pete." Before I could ask him to clarify, he wielded my crutch like a sledgehammer and began to swing it. "Holy shit, this is way easier," Carl said as it made contact with the janitor's forehead, forcing him back. "Try it, Nick." He joined Carl in swinging away with what were basically my extra legs. I could only watch as the means of my balance were dented to hell. They managed to keep it up long enough to reach the fire alarm lever. Nick was the one who managed to pull it. He did this just in time, because if my crutches gave out, who knows what would have happened to us. Their reaction to the fire alarm wasn't what we were expecting. We hoped they would react by covering their ears and screaming, allowing us to slip by them and into one of the rooms. Instead, they looked towards the noise, then began forming a single file line. Seeing this was bizarre, to say the least. "Are they following the fire drill procedure?" I asked. "It definitely seems that way," Nick said. "How bizarre." "Well, old habits tend to die hard," Carl explained. "But I wonder where they're heading." As far as we could tell, they were heading towards the wall where the door we came out had been. To our surprise, it started melting, revealing the door, which swung open as the ghosts approached it. As they went through it, they vanished into thin air. Realizing this might be our only chance of escape, we quickly started making our way towards it. "Come on, stay open, stay open," I chanted, using the wall to help myself with hopping towards the door, with Carl and Nick in front of me. Much to our dismay, it began closing. "Fuck you, no you don't," Carl yelled, throwing one of my crutches, sending it sliding across the floor. Luckily, it managed to reach the door before it could close, acting as a wedge to keep it open. However, we could tell it wouldn't for long, as it was already giving under the door's weight. "Almost there," Nick panted. We dove for the door as the crutch finally gave. Thankfully, we managed to make it out just by the skin of our teeth, finding ourselves back outside, landing hard on the sidewalk. "How the hell did we end up here from the basement?" I asked, pulling myself into a sitting position, noticing scrapes on my elbow. Looking back at the school showed us a building that had been abandoned for years. To be honest, I've always found that a cheap cliche in horror. After experiencing it myself, however, my opinion about that has changed. "Fuck if I know," Nick said. "Let's just get the hell out of here." "May have to walk," Carl told him, and pointed to the spot where the car used to be. "Oh, this is some horse shit," I cursed. "My crutches had to get broken for us to get out of there, and now we have to walk?" "There's a lot of debris on the ground from the tornado," Nick said to me, "so maybe we can find something among it that you can use." A lot was an understatement. Piles of uprooted trees littered the ground, in addition to old junked cars and litter. Carl and Nick snapped off some branches, yielding me some makeshift crutches. "Thanks, guys." They weren't as good as my old ones. However, I could make do with them. "No problem, Pete," Carl said. "Shame about the car, though." "Hey, wait," Nick spoke, squinting his eyes. He climbed onto one of the discarded trees. "Holy shit," he exclaimed. "Guys, I'll see the car." Sure enough, it turned out to be sitting on a pile of trees. Despite broken headlights and windows, by some miracle it was still intact. If it still worked remained to be seen. "Good eye, Nick. I'm gonna go see if I can get it to turn on." Carl ran towards his car, climbing the trees in order to get to it. His lips moved in a silent prayer right before he turned the key, powering on the vehicle and making it roar to life. "Yes," he said enthusiastically, slamming a fist down on the wheel. "I knew she'd pull through." Despite it taking some maneuvering with the steering wheel, he managed to drive his car down the pile of trees, pulling it to a stop in front of us. "Watch the glass." We opened the door to see bits of it covering the interior of the car. We got in after brushing them off as best we could. Then Carl sped the hell away from that godforsaken place. "Huh, that has to be the second worst experience I've ever had in a school," I said. "Second? What's the first then?" Nick inquired. "It's a long story. I'll tell you about it sometime." While what we saw in that school was indeed horrifying, however, I did have one experience in school I considered to be worse, albeit marginally. Maybe it's due to the fact that it happened when I was younger. Anyway, I don't really feel like getting into it right now. I'll have to leave it off here since I'm getting tired. This is Pete, signing out. I would like to thank tonight's author or authors for allowing me to use their works. If you enjoyed this, the authors' links will be in the description below. Please check them out and let them know PA sent you. Also, if you like to walk around representing my realm and gaining new travelers, the links to my merch store, my website, and all my other social medias will be in the description below. As always, I'd like to say a special thank you to all my lovely Patreons. All of their names will appear on screen. I'll make sure to put all their links in the description below so you guys can check them out as well if you'd like.
But as always, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.